Hi there, welcome to Floating in Dreams. Today we're going to be talking about my top 10 favorite formulas. Welcome to everybody watching today. Thank you so very much for joining me. This is my first video back from my trip from Japan. Everything you've seen up until this point was pre-filmed. I left on the 11th of July and I came back last Monday, which is why you're only seeing this video now, because I was very jet-lagged. I had a massive headache and my body was not coping very well. But I was like, you know what? I do want to film and come on here today, and I was like, it doesn't make much of a difference if this video goes live a day later, and you will be treated to a massive Japan haul this weekend, as well as so many more videos to come here in August. But I thought for eyeshadow palette month, because that is the theme that we're dealing with here in August, I could chat to you about my top 10 favorite eyeshadow palette formulas. If you've been with me for a while, I don't think there are going to be any surprises here. I definitely think that a lot of these palettes and formulas are things that people already know I love. Maybe they are some of your favorites as well. And if you haven't entered the giveaway yet, then make sure you do, because one palette by one of the brands that I'm showcasing in this video today is part of my little giveaway that I'm doing towards the end of the month, and you still have the rest of the month to enter. So make sure to link you to that giveaway in the description box down below, and let's just get chatting to all of these different palettes. The first palette I want to show you, the first formula I truly love, is also the formula that I'm giving away in my giveaway. Now, I'm not giving away this exact palette because I ended up with a slightly, well, the explanation is in that video, you could say, but Viseart. I'm giving away a Viseart palette. It's the Paris Reverie, I think that's what it's called. But one of my long-standing favorites from the brand is the Violette Étendu, which is why I'm featuring it here today. The Viseart formula is simply one of the best formulas on the market, period. There is no discussion when it comes to Viseart eyeshadow palettes for me. Their formula is one of the smoothest formulas on the market. Whether it's their shimmers, whether it's their mattes, these are super blendable, they are easy to work with. And I have heard so many people who are a little bit older than I am in my comment section who have mentioned how incredible these shades look on more wrinkly lids. So especially if you're dealing with a lot of texture on your lids, the Viseart formula is one that just lays down flat. And they are metallic-y, like sparkly shimmers in there, but they're not of the type of metallics that are going to look really heavy on your lids, which is why they work really well on lids that have more texture. This is simply one of the formulas that, in terms of blendability, it is really up there. In terms of longevity, it is really up there. And in terms of color stories, they do some of the best neutral color stories as well. They always have a mix of cool tones, warm tones, and true neutrals in every palette they do, I feel. You don't need every single Viseart palette. I mean, if you saw my haul in July, was it June or July? I don't remember, but I bought a bunch of new Viseart palettes to try out because I just love them so much. But I do feel that if you have your favorite color story by them, you definitely don't need any more, because they can feel a little bit samey once you have a couple of them. However, these are magnetic, which means that if you do have a couple of these and they are the same size pans, that you can very easily mix and match these, and that you can very easily sort of make your custom palette if that's what you want to do. I've never done that with my Viseart palettes because I don't feel the need, because they are perfect as they are. But the Viseart formula is just one where I really feel like they are just doing such a good job. It's so consistent. I've never bought a Viseart palette that was a dud from a formula standpoint at all. And I've tried a lot of Viseart over the years. So I had to tone down the brightness just a little bit because I was a little bit pale looking. But a newcomer to the list is Cheeryep. This is a brand, I think I started using them at the end of 2024, maybe earlier this year. I found them through YESSTYLE and MONOLITH. That's where I purchased a couple of my palettes, and they have such a nice formula. This is the Floating Life or Fleeting Life palette. It's the red one. That's the way I think of it. And Cheeryep is a Chinese beauty brand. And if you didn't already know, a lot of makeup is made in China, which is why I feel the formula of this palette is so excellent, because a lot of the formulas we already know and love are actually created probably in the same factory that this comes from. It's just branded in a different way. That is more so to appeal to the Chinese market. But I love this palette. It has some really nice multi-chromes in. I've tried their really cool toned one, the Steel Heart, as well as the Jump for Joy. I believe that's what it's called, which is all of these pretty pink tones. And they have some really stunning things. I think this is their most special thing that I've tried by them. These are a little bit grungier, they're a little bit deeper. The mattes in here are amazing, and also the shimmer formula in here is really excellent. I sometimes struggle with especially multi-chromes and like things that have the more special shades in, that they don't lay down very well on my lids and that they don't last well throughout the day. I do have quite deep set eyes, I have a more hooded lid, so my eyeshadows can just crease so easily. I try to take all the precautious steps in order to not have that happen to me, so I definitely make that work that way. But there are still some shadows that will just, like if they're too emollient, if they're too creamy, they won't stick down. And with this, I feel I get the impact of those special shades. I mean, this also has like a holographic shimmer in here, and then some multi-chromes, as I already mentioned. And it just looks so pretty. It lasts all day. It has really really good longevity. You get the special shades, but I also feel that these don't break the bank necessarily. However, when I bought mine, this one was like 45 euros, but I have also bought some of the other palettes for as little as 25, which, considering you get, what, 18 shades in here? That's actually quite a good amount of variety in terms of what you're paying for. I don't need massive palettes with huge pans because I have way too much eyeshadow as it is already, and then pay like twice as much for a palette, you know, like an Adept palette, which tends to go for close to 100 euros. So for me, this makes it a little bit more manageable. These are easy to travel with or put in a makeup bag if you don't have that much space. I love a lot of things about this brand, and the formula is definitely one of them. We're sticking to Asian beauty brands for a second because I have been raving about Romand ever since I've been trying them. They're better than eyeshadow palettes, are some of my favorites. I have like 6 of these now. This is the Cheeky Garden, which is one of the last ones that I bought from them. And this is so pretty. It has these cooler toned browny gray shades and then these like purpley pink tones with a black. You only get one shimmer, but this is absolutely stunning. Some of the palettes come with more shimmers, others have also some glittery things in, but from like a quality standpoint, this is very high up there for me. These are incredibly blendable mattes. The shimmers are still impactful. It is a K-beauty brand, so this is not gonna give you huge level of contrast. It's not going to give you boom kapow like some of the indie brands I will be featuring in a second. But if like me, like today I'm also wearing like a Chinese beauty brand actually. This is Flower Nose. And what I like about a lot of the Asian brands that I try is how easy it is to work with. It just takes all of the work out of it for you. And I know that there's a lot of people who just want really creative looks and they just want the impactful shimmers and the super explosive mattes. And I like that, but I don't always only want that. There are days, especially my day-to-day life, when I'm getting ready before I head out to work, where I just want something quick and easy. And that's what these Romand palettes give me. They're quick, easy to use, foolproof eyeshadows, especially if you're a beginner in makeup, or maybe if you're just not that confident with it and you do want to try eyeshadow. What I love about them is that they give you a full gradient. Every single one of them does that. I think the gradient is actually the strongest in this one. It always gives you a variety of shades that are still really complementary and easy to work with. They blend themselves and they still last all day. It's just foolproof, easy to use makeup. And I know that a lot of people dislike K-beauty brands precisely because it's not very impactful. But I think if you're a newbie with makeup, or if you're just not that confident, or maybe you work in an environment where very vibrant looks just aren't the thing, then this is a way to wear makeup and still have that very nice, sophisticated look, but without it going overboard. And I think that is one of the places where K-beauty and Asian beauty just really excels. I mean, I just came back from Japan, so I now know what sort of like the average vibe is. And the only people who are really wearing obvious makeup is like teenagers, and everybody else wears very little that is very obvious. It's all like this like wash of color sort of thing, and it looks really pretty. So if you want pretty makeup, I definitely would go the K-beauty route. So before we go the indie makeup route, I have to share this with you. I know that a lot of my favorite formulas tend to be on the slightly more expensive side as well. There are good eyeshadows at the drugstore for sure, but if I have to pick my top 10 favorites, the Natasha Denona has to be part of that list. This is the I Need a Nude. This is possibly one of my favorite palettes by her. It is really, really pretty with all of these like brown tones. And I know that some people don't like Natasha Denona, but I feel that it's usually because of the color story. And I do feel that Natasha Denona color stories need work. There is usually not a lot of contrast, which works for me because I'm pasty pale. Like, I've been outside in the sun for 3.5 weeks. I barely got a tan. Like, this is about as much of a tan I'll ever have. Because I don't tan to begin with. Like, it's not my aim to turn a darker skin color. And so I feel that the color stories that Natasha Denona does are really perfect for me most of the time. I don't like all of them. That's why I don't have all of the palettes. But I've tried quite a few of them. I've reorganized them. I've played around with it. And I just feel it's so consistent. It's like whichever palette you get, you know it's going to be on point. I love how Natasha Denona has some really, really stunning mattes, as well as really good shimmers, and there's always different textures in the shimmers as well. There are things that are going to be more sparkly, that have like a sheer base to them, that are more of a topper, but there's also things that are full-on metallics, like something like here in the middle, and then this is like more of that toppery kind of shade. But I just feel it's very versatile. You can layer and play with this, and every look will come out slightly differently every single time. And that's probably why the brand doesn't give you a lot of contrast or a lot of this or that, because I just feel you can really mix and match these and really sort of play with it like a painter's palette. That's how they sort of work in my brain. Even if I have some Natasha Denona palettes where I feel I don't get the perfect crease shade, but then I can always take one of the darker shades and one of the lighter shades and sort of blend it together, and it works like that. Viseart has that kind of quality as well, I feel. But Natasha Denona definitely does as well. I just really think that this is one of the best formulas on the market. The 15 pans, though, are my favorite. Not sure if the formula in the like little mini palettes is exactly the same as in the big palettes, but I do tend to like these bigger palettes more. Again, they are magnetic, they can be moved around, they have so many fun textures as well, and that's just why I rate Natasha Denona. Again, really easy to use, even if you have wrinkly textured lids. This is just one of those formulas that just stays put throughout the day so well. And again, it's so easy to use. These shadows blend themselves. You can use them with a finger, you can use them wet, you can use them dry. You can really play around with these, and that's why I appreciate Natasha Denona so much. Everything that's left is an indie brand. Because, of course, I love my indie brand shadows as well. I think that if you want truly good eyeshadow and you want it to be a little bit more adventurous, then an indie brand is just where it's at. One of my favorites is Glossgods, and they actually, while I was in Japan, I saw one of their posts on Instagram asking the public, the audience, which palette they should bring back. And I saw a lot of people saying this, and I pitched in my 2 cents as well, because the Smoke and Mirrors is one that is really, really good. It was only around for a hot minute for a Christmas limited edition, so I do really hope they bring it back, because they did bring Vintage Glam back last year. So I'm hoping that this year it's going to be this one. Smoke and Mirrors is a cool tone palette, but again with Glossgods, I haven't found anything wrong with any of their formulas. Everything they do, every palette I've tried from them has been incredibly consistent, and they do some stunning mattes, some stunning shimmers. Everything is super metallic-y and impactful. Like, this is probably not the best if you have textured lids, you know what I mean? Because these can be a little bit heavier. I definitely need to make sure I layer these in thin layers for them to stay on all day, so it requires a little bit more work, but I do really enjoy this color story so much. They do really fun, exciting things. They do very neutral things like this, but they also do very creative things with all shimmer palettes. One of their latest releases is the Dancing Lights, I believe it was called, which is Aurora inspired, and it has pastel, mattes, and bright things, and multi-chromes and all that. So they do a lot of fun, creative things as well. So they sort of bridge the gap for me between the best of both worlds, of having really good neutrals, but at the same time also giving me the fun shades that I like to use from time to time. And even if they do a neutral palette, it's never boring, which is important. So this is a really lovely color story as well. In this one, I feel we get fewer of like the more sparkly things, but also Glossgods is a brand that experiments with different types of shimmer textures, with holographic shades and multi-chromes and doing all that. So they have a great variety of textures between some of the palettes that I have by them, and it's just really, really great quality. And these, again, from a price point, they aren't the most expensive indie brand on the market either, especially if you're in Europe, because they're Swedish. So for me, it's only about 10 euros to ship the palettes to me, which is great. Some other brands I will be featuring are more easily accessible if you're in the US. Sticking to an EU-based brand then for a second, I think we need to mention, of course, Glam Shop. This is the last palette that they brought out that I've tried from them, the Creme de la Creme, and they are Polish. Not sure if I mentioned that already. So again, for me, in the Netherlands, super easy to get. I think it's like 7 or 8 euros for shipping, which is great. I understand if you're not in the EU or if you're not in a country that they ship to very easily, that it can be a little bit more expensive, but they do things like this. Again, a brand that does really good neutral things, especially if you have fair skin, because in Poland, like also a lot of their complexion products are very good for very pale skin tones. And so they do a lot of things that are aimed at very light skin tones, but they also do the really crazy, shimmery, vibrant, fun sort of things as well. So again, a brand that really likes mixing it up. They do 9 pans, they do 15 pans like this. They have a really good selection of singles as well, and especially in the singles, they do some really interesting textures. I have a bunch of their singles in my single collection too, but this was just really beautiful. This palette, though, is more of their like softer mattes and shimmers. These shimmers all feel more like satin shimmers, but this brand does flakies and holochromes, and they do the whole spectrum of what you can find in terms of eyeshadow. They tend to do, but I picked this one particularly because it's the last one I tried, and this formula, it's out of this world amazing. Super easy to blend, super easy to work with. It stays put. And again, if you do have textured lids, this is the kind of formula you're gonna love from Glossgods. This is, I think, a very safe option from this brand. Now, if you are in the US and you want something that's super easy to blend, that lasts all day, that has beautiful shimmers, and that will look great if you do have textured lids, I would go Sydney Grace. Oh, it's upside down. This is the Heaven on Earth. They just did their Christmas in July sale last July. I do apologize for that, but I think their next sort of sale event is Black Friday. They usually do like 2 sale events in the year. And this is just really, really beautiful. I have like, I think 75% of all of my single pan eyeshadows in my single eyeshadow collection are Sydney Grace because they're that good. Like, I really invested in these. These are better than MAC or whatever single brand you can imagine. These are the cream of the crop. They do palettes as well. I like the palettes a little less because I'm not always a fan of the color stories. Like in this, there's only like a handful of shades I truly feel confident using, but still the formula is on point. You get really amazing, like the mattes that Sydney Grace does are, they're pigmented, they're easy to work with, no matter what color it is. Like I have every single shade under the sun that this brand has produced. Well, not all of their shades, but I mean like every sort of color that I would want. Even if they do purples or blues or things that are like traditionally difficult to make, they get it right every single time. Great mattes. The shimmers in here are, again, a little bit more like in the Glam Shop, where it's more of like a satin shimmer. They do metallics and they are very vibrant, but they still have this very silky, smooth sort of quality to it. I actually posted a review, I think it was last week, where I reviewed Wondrous Night, which is a single I have by them that was gifted to me, and it is beautiful. It's really impactful. It looks like a satin in the pan, but then once you apply it, and especially if you apply these with fingers, you get even more intensity out of them. So these aren't the most high shine, kapow, in your face, shiny shadows, but for the blendability and the longevity that it has, it is absolutely beautiful. If you're someone who struggles with like shimmer particles falling down your face throughout the day, then Sydney Grace is probably going to be your saving grace, because they really have that sort of formula where it's impactful, it looks super shiny, but there's just something about how finely milled the shimmer particles are that nothing ever is going to go on chunky and nothing is going to fall down your face. So Sydney Grace is another one I highly recommend. But what if you do like the super impactful, high shine shimmer stuff? Cosmic Beauty. I really feel that Cosmic Beauty is sort of sitting in a very comfortable place for me in terms of indie brands and what they have to offer. They do these sort of like square-based palettes that have 20 colors in them. That new Smolder palette, you know it's on the wish list. You know I'm going to get that first opportunity I get. But if you stay tuned for my Japan haul, you know why I'm gonna hold off for a few weeks until I buy new makeup, because I got a lot of gifts and souvenirs and stuff. But yeah, the Winter Wonderland from Cosmic Beauty is one of my favorites by the brand. This is when I also feel they started to do slightly more shimmers. I also have the Serenity, and that only had 3 shimmers in, which I thought was, And this has that emollient, you can sort of see it in this shade best, I think, this really emollient, creamy formula. And where with some brands, as I have already mentioned, it sometimes can mean that things just crease really easily. This doesn't do it. And they don't break the bank. So these are impactful, really, like still really easy to work with, but it just requires more work, especially with colors like this. Like if you take a matte like this and you're trying to blend it into the crease, you're in for a little bit of a workout. Like you need to blend that thing for sure. It's not like with Viseart where it's like boop, 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 and I'm done, you know? This does require a little bit more work, but this is incredibly impactful. Cosmic Beauty is definitely one of my favorite indie brands because they do so many lovely things and they just have so many wonderful palettes. So yeah, the Winter Wonderland is one that I like in particular, but pick whichever color story you like by them, and I'm pretty sure you're going to find a color story and a formula that you're going to love, especially if you want to try these more impactful things. Next up is going to be Bella Beauty Bar. So this is another more recent find for me. I tried some Bella Beauty Bar about a year before, and I liked it okay, but I wasn't a huge fan, mainly because I thought the palette was too big. But then I bought the Poison Garden last fall, and I fell in love head over heels. I now have 4 of their more recent palettes, and I think I also want to, they came out with the unoriginal nudes, right? That's on the wish list. You know it is. You know it is. You know it is. But this is what the Poison Garden looks like, and this is again for the people who want the grunge, the impactful, high performing shadows that just have a higher level of pigmentation. That's what Bella Beauty Bar is really, really good for. You can see how intense these shades are. These shades go on the way they look in the pan. Even if you blend them, like, it's impactful shades. If that's what you like, then I think you're gonna love Bella Beauty Bar. The shimmers in here are absolutely gorgeous as well. Again, a little bit more on that emollient side, like with the Cosmic Beauty. So that means they're gonna go on super impactful, but it's best applied with fingers or a very light layer with a brush in order to really have them last very well. These are blendable though. Sometimes with these very emollient shades, I find they don't blend very well with brushes, but with this, I feel that I have no issues. And the reason why I love this so much is because not only the color story of this palette really appealed to me, but it just came together in such a wonderful way. With some indie brands, especially if it's shades like this, and I start blending them on my very fair skin, they can look really muddy very easily. Like, there's just something about the undertone of the shades that doesn't really gel well with my undertone, and then it starts to look a little bit weird. Not with this. This looks absolutely stunning. I've also tried their Realm of Fairies and their Green Goddess, and I have found them to be very consistent over all of those different palettes. I will be testing out their reformulated Smoky Glam. I still have the old version of that as well, so I can hopefully do a bit of a compare and contrast with that when I do my palette review at the end of the month. But yeah, the Poison Garden by Bella Beauty Bar was a complete game changer for me. I love their formula, and they are now one of my favorite indie brands as a result. I had a bit of a panic because I was like, do I have 10 palettes here? But I do. Number 10 is Fantasy Cosmetica. And I actually have to go into this palette and this brand with a little bit of a disclaimer, because I wanted to work really hard for you guys to keep this palette 10 brands, 10 formulas. I could have featured so many more things. I love Pat McGrath. I love Melt. I love Nomad. I love Glaminatrix. I love Blend Bunny. Like, I could have very easily made this like a top 15 or possibly even a top 20 to really include all of the things. But I want to make a conscious effort of like pushing myself to only give you my top favorites. And I was like, then it has to be Fantasy Cosmetica. Because not only do they do really fun color stories, but they are, again, that super impactful, interesting mattes, good shimmers, long lasting, but still easy to work with, for me anyways. There was one little dud. I didn't love the autumn palette that they did with Makeup Just for Fun last year. That one I felt formula-wise wasn't the same as other palettes I've tried from the brand. But then they did the Harvest of Souls for Christmas, and I was like, yup, that is right up my street. So I really enjoy the Fantasy Cosmetica formula. They do some really wonderful things, and they just have so many wonderful things that they do. Like, their color stories just always suck me in. They also do some things that are very warm toned, like that new Monk palette they did this year. That is not up my street, but in terms of formula and doing colorful things and fun things that work well, again, like what I said with Bella Beauty Bar, these shades never look muddy on me, which is very often with colorful shades the case for me. So another great thing for me, blendable, easy to use, interesting shimmers, great textures in here, and I just feel it's very workable shadow. It's easy to work with, even though it's super impactful at the same time. So that's why Fantasy Cosmetica had to get a mention here. And that's it. Those are all of the formulas that I wanted to feature in today's video as sort of like my top 10 favorite formulas. So it's not necessarily about these particular palettes from these brands. I have many more palettes often by these brands, and I just wanted to showcase them to show you what it is that I love and where you can really get the quality makeup, because I feel that very often, especially with eyeshadow palettes, we can really get caught up on like, oh, this is the new bright shiny thing, and then we always forget about maybe they're not the formula that we love. You know what I mean? Like, I have so many good eyeshadow palettes, but then there's always something like, maybe not. And these, I feel, are not only brands that are consistent, as in like different palettes I've tried. It's always the same thing. Like, it's always good quality. It's always consistent. And I've loved so many things by them. So that's why these all had to get a mention here. So thanks so much for watching me here today. Let me know in a comment down below what your favorite formulas are. I would love to know, and I hope you'd like to check back for more, and then hope to see you again very soon in a new video. Bye-bye.